What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into our second video of the day. We posted one on the channel about an hour and a half ago about ESPN's latest mock draft. So go check that out after this video is over. But this video is all about the Broncos signing wide receiver Freddie Swain off of the Miami Dolphins practice squad and onto their active 53-man roster. So Mike Kliss, the first one to tweet it out, reporting that the Broncos are signing wide receiver Freddie Swain. He has some overlap with Russell Wilson, which made me start to connect some dots, right? Could we might get this and go, oh, is this a sign of, hey, Russell Wilson is going to return at some point this year, so that's why they're bringing Freddie Swain onto the roster? That's a bit of a stretch, but I don't think you can dismiss the idea of Russell Wilson returning this year, although I don't think it's a very sensible or logical thing to do given the shoulder, hamstring, and now head injury he has all sustained in one season. You're 3-10. I think you should shut him down. But that's a video that we've done, well, multiple times. Now, the wide receiver depth chart is thin. I mean, Courtland Sutton and Kendall Hinton are both dealing with hamstring injuries. That caused Sutton to miss last week's game. You got Jerry Jeudy, who was awesome against KC, toasted them for 3 touchdowns. But then it's Montrell Washington, the rookie, UDFA and Jalen Virgil, another UDFA and Brandon Johnson. And then it's now Freddie Swain, who you might recognize the name because he was decent in Seattle, I would say. In 2020 and 2021, he played in 34 games, 61 targets, 38 receptions, 502 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So this is where I go back to. Is it just a coincidence that it's someone from Russ's past, right? Someone he has a bit of a connection with to close out the season. And might it signal that Russell Wilson is playing for the last 4 games or whenever he is cleared from concussion protocol? I mean, personally, I'm a bit surprised that they haven't placed him on IR and said, you know what? Time to cut our losses and let's just get you ready for 2023. At this point, I almost feel like it's more likely he is going to play, and maybe it's only me in this tiny little box that thinks maybe you should shut down Russell Wilson. Now, the remaining schedule for the last 4 weeks, by the way, the Cardinals, which we'll talk about, plus there's a surprise at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that coming up this week. Then it's at the Rams on Christmas Day. These are both going to be awful games. Then at Kansas City, which is going to be a bloodbath, most likely, unless it's a repeat comeback of last Sunday. And then you close it out with the Chargers. So that's the remaining schedule. We got more news to get to in just a moment. But I think Freddie Swain, if this was a Seahawks channel, would qualify as a random Seahawks wide receiver. So I want to play the game with you guys right now. Name a random Broncos wide receiver. It has to be random, right? It can't be Emmanuel Sanders. It can't be someone that was awesome. It's got to be someone's like, oh my gosh, completely forgot that guy played for Denver. The more random, the better. Let me know who you got in the comment section. Plus, if you have not subscribed to the channel, we are 51 subscribers away from reaching 11,000. I've been pushing for this milestone. Help me reach it off of this video. Hit that big red button if you are a Broncos fan looking for another Broncos YouTube channel. So we talked about this briefly in our previous video from 90 minutes ago, but I'm still pretty pissed off about it. The Raiders signed Netane Muti off of the practice squad from the Broncos, and this was someone who had starting buzz at one point in the summer. Now, unfortunately, he got hurt during training camp, and then I was a bit surprised he didn't make the 53-man roster. I was even more surprised he hasn't been snagged off the practice squad already. Now, the depth chart right now for Denver needs some help. So one would think, you know what? With Dalton Risner missing last week and Luke Wattenberger being a disaster in this spot, maybe you cut ties with Quinn Bailey, who I feel like they've already cut 3 times, unless I'm having a Mandela effect. And you have Muti signed to the active 53-man roster instead of having him go to your biggest rival, your arch rival, then with the Chiefs, and saying, Muti, you know what? Let's use these last 4 games as, I wouldn't say JV football, but a bit of a trial to see if Muti can start at left guard next year. Because Risner's contract is up. Cushenberry has not looked all that at center. So I think these last 4 games, especially if Risner was hurt anyway, could be an excellent sample size to see if Muti can be a legitimate starting guard for you. He must be the world's worst offensive lineman in practice. It's the only thing that makes sense to me for him not to have been signed to the active roster already. All right, more injury news to get to here now. First injury news. Mike Boone, it feels like this whole season has just been more injury news. Mike Boone, though, has been placed on IR. 4 games left. That is it for him for the rest of the season. He re-sprained his previous high ankle sprain from earlier in the year. That's a bummer. This is the last year of his 2-year contract, so most likely the end of his time in Denver. And I think Mike Boone will always go down as what could have been an awesome RB3, RB2. Oh, producer my ear. That's the surprise. An excellent choice in Canada of name a random Broncos running back because missed him pretty much all of last year and this year on and off with the ankle injury. All right. Speaking of coming up here, Broncos, Cardinals. This one is going to be tough to watch. There's no sugarcoating it. But who you got? Denver or Arizona? Just think about it for a second. This has the making of a Brett Rippon versus Colt McCoy game. That is gross. That is a war crime. That is disgusting. Imagine if it gets to this point, which not bashing Brett Rippon or Colt McCoy, because I think Colt McCoy is probably one of the better backup quarterbacks in football, but Colt McCoy is good for like 1 to 2 games, right? Eventually, if you ask your backup to play too much, they'll get to a point where it's, I bet Colt McCoy wants to stop playing because he's like, you guys are going to discover I'm not that good if I keep playing. Same goes for Brett Rippon. All right, I teased you earlier with the surprise. The surprise is I am lucky enough to get 30 minutes of time from the exquisite executive producer here at Chat Sports, former Broncos Breakdown host, Sam Brown. Sam, it's been a while since we've had you on the channel, but I kind of wanted to bring you on for the last couple of minutes and just talk about this year, because no one wants to hear, no offense, your take on Freddie Swain, because there is no take to be had.
No, I had none.
There should be none. But do you have a take or a reaction on how this year has gone for Denver?
I came prepared. We're cracking open a beer
that sounds about right.
Season, because had you and I had this conversation 15 weeks ago, I would be feeling a lot better about where this team is at and the future of this team. And now we're sitting here. I stopped watching games. I work here. Right. I'm busy to begin with, but I've stopped tuning into games and checking in on games.
Appointment television, we'll say.
Ago. Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I'll ask you this. So if you're Peyton, you're going into the offseason. It is probably, I think we're on the same page, Fire Hackett. You were on the Fire Hackett train a little before I was, actually. I was week 3, you were week 2.
I was week 2. People don't know. I think I might have started the hashtag Can't Hack It campaign.
Yeah, that was week 1. Sam was texting me during the Seahawks game, and he's like, can't hack it. I was like, dude, it's okay. It's a lot of emotion returning to Seattle. Don't judge Hackett off of this. And then there was the McManus field goal, which I was like, I think all of us in that moment were like, holy shit, this might be a horrible, horrible hire.
And I think at that point in time, I realized, we're in for a long year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm looking at it we could be in for a long few years here. I mean, Fire Hackett, obviously. Just start from scratch there. Start from scratch. Get rid of a good amount of the offensive staff, to be honest, because there are some deficiencies that literally were not there in the past.
The only guy that should keep his job is Evero, the DC.
Yes.
Everyone else has got to go.
But now I'm worried that he's even going to be in the mix for head coaching jobs and stuff this offseason in interviews.
I don't think any team's going to nibble. If they do, they'll kind of be like maybe the Broncos who hired Hackett, and it's like, what were you thinking? First-year head coach that young, way too early. I don't think Evero's going to go anywhere.
Have you entertained here on the channel and have fans entertain the idea of promoting Evero to head coach?
No, and here's why you don't promote Evero. I've talked about this before. If you promote Evero, he's no longer your defensive coordinator. He is your interim head coach. So then when the season is up, you have to make a decision. He's your head coach. Do you want to keep him or not?
I'm talking about
relegate him back
after
to DC.
You fire Hackett this offseason. Fast forward to the offseason.
Okay. Because he can't be your interim head coach.
Hackett stays the rest of the season. But do you just promote internally from there?
I think my guy, and it was my guy last year, right? It's Dan Quinn. I am not against second-time chances for head coaches. There's a lot of great coaches. Did you know, for example, Pete Carroll was a head coach before the Seahawks in the NFL?
With the Jets.
Okay, maybe with the Patriots, I thought. Or with the Jets, too. Maybe I'm having bad trivia.
Let's find out.
You find out. But the point is, there's been a lot of great coaches. Belichick, of course, with Cleveland. A lot of guys need second chances. So I am all about getting Dan Quinn to Denver, which I thought was going to happen last year. I think we all kind of thought that was happening last year. Is it Jets or Seahawks? Or Jets or Patriots?
It's the Jets. One season in 1994.
He wasn't the Patriots later?
He was on the Patriots. Yes, he was the Patriots head coach after that.
Okay, so you're both right.
So Patriots from 97 to 99.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Okay.
Kudos to both of us.
Look at us. Who would have thought?
We're so smart.
All right. So that's where we're going to sign off. No offense to Freddie Swain.
Feels like a right spot to play.
Freddie Swain's video got hijacked from some Broncos banter at the end. But
I'll take a drink to that.
I think the quick 30-second pitch to, let you sleep for the rest of the year is you fire Hackett. You get a competent head coach with experience. You believe, and this is the big if you can hopefully cross the bridge of that coach brings out old Russell Wilson, which is a big ask, but that is the hope and prayer. And then you have to nail that first-round draft pick because it wasn't nailed? Nick Bonitto. The guy had so many opportunities this year after the Bradley Chubb trade, after the Randy Gregory trade.
Let's give him
and
time.
That's your OU
I'm
guy.
a Bonitto fan.
Yeah, I know. So,
he was so
you got to nail that first-round draft pick.
I mean, I'm sure how much of it like I said, you follow closer than I have.
Yeah.
How much of it maybe do you blame on the fact that, hey, Bradley Chubb isn't right there opposite of him, and you're having Nick Bonitto rush the passer opposite of Jonathan Cooper. Or,
I've heard some people try to spin zone it and be like, oh, it's like Shaq Barrett, who was somewhat like redshirted his first year in the NFL. Same could be the case for Bonitto. I guess the issue is Nick Bonitto, one, when you're not getting on the field, that's a bit of a concern. And two, when you are on the field, outside of the Jags game, he has been a non-factor. So no offense to your Sooners, but hopefully this first-round pick coming from San Francisco is going to be a home run.
Draft O-line.
Yeah, O-line. That's going to do it for us on today's Broncos podcast. Joined with Sam Brown. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, making us a part of your day once again. I will see you all later with more Broncos news and rumors.